All right, so thank you everybody for being here today. We have a lot of people here that are return people that have seen presentations in the past, and some are evaluators, some are parents, some of you are students. Others of you are, I even have some family members here from the West Coast that are involved in various different parts of STEM as well as an artistic side of things. And then I've also got some former colleagues. We have current colleagues. We have all kinds of people here to help these students tonight with their presentation evaluation as well as observing. If you are not an evaluator and you are just an observer, there is a form that you can fill out if you'd like to help keep those of us that are evaluating a little bit more in line. I'll use this to be able to help figure out if, as evaluators, we are staying consistent for the most part, or at least get an idea of what it is that you all think. So hopefully you can see my screen right now. If so, can I get a thumbs up that you can? All right, cool. If so, you can see what that observer form looks like. It's just a series of linear scale questions, as well as at the end, an opportunity for you to say what you would score this team as out of a 0 to 100. And then if you'd like to, they are not required, but if you'd like to provide some open-ended feedback for them about their presentation and or about the course, if you have any that you'd like to provide. For those of you that are evaluating, this is the form that we're using. And so just so that people can get a sense of what it is, all of this will come together in the end and be something that I look at an average score of. For those of you that may not know me so well, and for anybody watching the recording later on, my name's Adam Davidson. I've been teaching for the past 17 years and the past 14 at Riverside. I've loved teaching this class this past semester. It has been quite a privilege, and I'm excited to end it with this presentation that you're going to watch today. It's been a long, long road to get to this point for these students, not only in just being able to bring this course to Riverside, which is something we've been trying to do for nearly a decade, but also in dealing with being remote and this being such a hands-on class typically. I'm hoping that today you'll get to see what these students are able to pull off, even when this class, which should be, in our opinion, year long and should definitely be in person. I'm hoping you'll get to see what they're able to do with such a short amount of time and such few resources. I'm going to read a quick introduction, and then when I'm finished, I'll turn off my mic and camera, and Homeless Health Solutions, you'll be able to share and move on from there, okay? It isn't often that an educator, especially a veteran teacher, is brought to tears of joy from watching a team present. That is exactly how I found myself a few weeks ago after this team gave their most recent presentation. This team of 4 has impressed their audiences the entire semester. The level of detail provided in their 108-page technical report is just the tip of the iceberg that is their team's thoroughness. I'm thrilled to join you this evening in watching Homeless Health Solutions as they give this year's final EDD presentation. Enjoy.
Good morning. I hope everyone is doing well. I'd like to thank everyone for coming to watch us. Today we'll be presenting our final defense, which, like the name suggests, is the team's final presentation and goes over the entirety of the year. Without further ado, we are Homeless Health Solutions.
I'm Ben Saab.
I'm Emily Jackson.
I'm Esme Hernandez.
And I'm George Stern.
We are a group of Riverside seniors enrolled in a Project Lead the Way capstone class, Engineering, Design, and Development. As part of this class, we are tasked with finding a problem and fixing it. We united around the problem of foot health among homeless populations and formed Homeless Health Solutions. Over this course, our product has come a long way. In the 5 months of this class, we researched and validated a problem in the homeless population, consulted experts to learn knowledge about multiple fields, and brainstormed possible solutions for our problem. The solutions that we came up with all varied greatly, but after collecting multiple ideas from the brainstorm, we eventually compiled ideas together and landed on the product we will be presenting today: an antimicrobial, water-wicking compression sock. Along with these great features, our sock also possesses a built-in pocket for an optional insole. With ethically sourced materials and a pair being donated to the homeless for every pair bought, the buyer can know they are making a quality purchase. As we progress further in this presentation, we will cover each aspect of this product in full depth and discuss the decisions made at each step. We hope you enjoy it.
This semester has been a long one. An average of about 2 hours per day was dedicated into this class. Keep in mind that this average doesn't account for the after midnight meetings before a big presentation. You can only imagine how much sleep we got last night. In today's presentation, we'll cover what Homeless Health Solutions has been working on for the past 146 days. Although we would love to share every single moment, breakthrough, and obstacle with you, there is only so much that we can share in this given moment. Today, we will go through how the team was formed, the problem chosen, the solution we came up for the problem, our experts and mentors, the building and testing of our product, and reflection on what we would have done differently and how we have grown as a team.
In the next few slides, we will discuss how we came together as a team and how we work together.
You've heard it 1,000 times, maybe more, but COVID-19 changed things. And school was one of them. Transferring to an online format was awkward. During the first week, teachers were given PowerPoint presentations about how online school would work to present to their class. Mr. Davidson chose a different route and immediately told us this class was going to kick our behinds. And oh, by the way, we had a presentation to give by ourselves and due in 3 days. Speaking for myself, but likely representing the entire class, if butterflies are what happen when you get a bit nervous, this was like a fighter jet launching off a tarmac. It was scary. The presentation centered around picking just 3 problems in the entire world that we would later work to solve. I threw together 3 problems on a Google slide. Dog cages causing stress for the animal, Zoom not communicating body language, and most importantly, homeless fashion being something that discouraged them from getting jobs. Flash forward to presenting after a bad night's sleep, I stumbled through my presentation, but most importantly, made it through it. Once everyone had finished their presentation, Mr. Davidson announced that he would be leaving to get coffee and that we would need to figure out the team selection process by ourselves. I'm sure if we were in person, everyone would be looking back and forth at each other. We didn't have a clue on what to do next. Eventually, after the silence became a little less scary, we devised a plan to compile all the problems and then use 3 votes to decide our favorite ones of the bunch. At the end, we went from more than 30 ideas to just cleaning up children's toys, earbuds easily breaking, and homeless fashion. People then allocated themselves to their favorite one. 3 going to children's toys, 4 to earbuds, but only 2 to fashion, homeless fashion. It was just Ben and me. And even though I knew Ben was a hard worker, looking back at the boot camp-like speech Mr. Davidson gave talking about the rigor of this class, I knew it wasn't enough, but I really, really wanted to do homeless fashion. So I muted myself and reached for a pencil and flashcard and wrote a likely misspelled, unaligned, chicken scratch speech, took a breath, unmuted myself, and shakingly said, "Hey, I don't know the reason you are doing your problems, but I know the reason behind homeless fashion is helping the homeless. And that's something I really want to do. I want to change something big. And some of you might be doing this for college, and I promise you, if you talk about doing a big project in hopes to help the homeless, that will be a great thing. Thank you." After some further discussion, the Cleaning Up Children's Toys team was disbanded, and 2 members from there, Emily and Esme, joined Ben and I to form Homeless Fashion, which would later become Homeless Health Solutions. And even still, going into our project seemed like a daunting task because we were the smallest team. But as we learned later in the semester, our ambitions made up for it.
The first few days working in our team were awkward, especially because when we were put in breakout rooms because the team didn't know each other very well. Over the semester, however, we got to know each other better and found that we worked really well together, largely due to the strengths that each member developed. From the beginning, George showed leadership qualities. He has a knack for speaking with people outside the team on our behalf, including with other teams in EDD and with Mr. Davidson. Esme's organizational skills were what really made her stand out in the team. She's always been good at keeping up with deadlines and making agendas for the team, such as the one shown on the right. Ben excelled when it came to extensively researching past technologies and developing technical drawings of our product. His attention to detail helps us do well in these areas. I myself had a large hand in setting up the meetings with experts. Throughout the semester, I contacted many experts from all different fields on the team's behalf in order to set up meetings and gain knowledge and advice from outside sources. What also helped us develop a good team dynamic is taking the time to let loose and have some fun. While there are many long meetings filled with researching, documenting, and analyzing, we also made sure to set aside time to talk with each other and play games such as Scribble.io. Not only did this help us bond as a team, but it helped us relax and de-stress.
One of the first steps in accomplishing any ambitious project is knowing what the problem is. Through research and consulting experts, we developed a well-defined problem, and through that began to see what potential solutions may look like.
When forming our team, we knew that we wanted to provide a service or product for the homeless population. The original idea of helping the homeless with professional attire was quickly added to a list of other issues when we realized that unemployment isn't as big of an issue as previously thought, and that there are many organizations and people who address this. We noticed that there are bigger problems the homeless face that are often overlooked. Each team member began to research problems the homeless face, and we came across many, such as the homeless not having an address to receive important documents, grooming issues, not being able to wash their clothes, and that's just a short list to name a few.
The problems that were researched were then put into a decision matrix to help us choose a problem that would fit our criteria for the project. Each member rated the problems based upon how well they felt they followed the following criteria. The problem must be feasible, research must indicate that the problem exists, it must have no implied solution, contain measures, address the root problem, and have little competition. Each of the criteria were also weighted depending on how important they were to the team. For example, addressing a root problem rather than a secondary effect was particularly important to the team, and thus it was weighted heavier than some of the other criteria. After everyone's ratings were averaged out, our chosen problem unveiled itself.
Based on the decision matrix and further discussion amongst the team, we came to a final conclusion. The problem statement is, in 2016, the National Center for Biotechnology claimed up to 65% of homeless Americans experience medically related foot problem caused by poor footwear, physical injury, or poor hygiene. This is the beginning of homeless health solutions.
Doing all this work doesn't matter if the problem isn't an important one to solve. The team needed to do extensive research, looking at multiple sources to solidify that the foot health of the homeless was an issue that was important to solve. Homelessness obviously exists, and we gathered demographic data to back that up. It affected more than 500,000 Americans in 2018, and though concentrated in urban areas, affected every state in America. In addition to the study from the problem statement, informed by a peer-reviewed scientific journal, PLOS One, we learned that over 40% of homeless men wear shoes that are ill-fitting, meaning too large or small for their feet by more than one size. From another NCBI study, this one from 2018, which collected information on the foot health of the homeless, found that 56% reported suffering from regular pain, 30% were observed having a fungal nail infection, and 24% from athlete's foot. These conditions can snowball into more severe ones, as homeless people often lack access to medical treatment. Though not likely the actual numbers, if these percentages reflect anything close to what they would be if scaled up to the entirety of the American homeless population, hundreds of thousands of homeless are suffering from foot-related medical issues. We also gathered comments from nonprofit organizations in a survey asking them what problems they saw in the homeless community. From Ryan Sutherland, Executive Director of PAWS, stated, some individuals experiencing homelessness are on their feet upwards of 16 hours a day, which when paired with the information from the scientific journal and NCBI study, paints a rough picture of the daily lives for some homeless people and their foot health. Compiling this information gave us the ability to form connections, getting a better picture of how many people it affected and, like we needed, showed us this was a problem worth solving.
Ideally, we would have surveyed residents in homeless shelters, but we were unable to due to COVID circumstances. Instead, we reached out to various homeless shelters and organizations to get their take on the issues they see amongst the homeless population. We also looked into existing solutions, which we'll explore later on in the presentation. Most importantly, we researched our target market and distinguished our users from our buyers. When identifying our users and buyers, we initially settled on selling directly to homeless shelters and organizations. Some of these included Durham Rescue Mission, Urban Ministries, New Haven Poverty Alleviation through Washing Souls, and Boston Healthcare for the Homeless Program. We wanted to sell to them so that they could distribute our product to the homeless for free, but we'll explain how this idea developed later on in the presentation.
Our goal is centered in helping the homeless, and we made decisions based on that fact. In the design of our product, the fight between quality and cost plagued almost every step. We wanted our product to be of the highest quality possible, but at the same time did not want the donation of our product to the homeless population to quickly result in the death of the team's product. So we knew we needed to find a balance between the two in order to have success. One method of accomplishing this was streamlining the manufacturing process, because if we needed less resources to build each unit, then we could donate more units to the homeless, and so we could help more people in the homeless community. With the homeless being such a large population, people vary in every characteristic. This made us realize two things. The product would need to be simple because if the product became too specialized, it wouldn't work for segments of the large population. And if foot size varied greatly, in order to escape the need to manufacture a different version of the product for each variation of foot size, we knew we would need the product to be a general fit item. This means the product would need to be able to stretch and compress in order to deliver a comfortable fit regardless of the person. Additionally, there's a large range of ages, and since general fit items won't fit extremes, two different types would need to be able to be made, a children's and adult size.
Because our problem revolves around feet, the team knew from the start what our product's operating environment would be. Now, bear with me for a second. Most people in the Zoom call are probably wearing socks right now. And depending on if you don't care about getting your floors dirty, you might be wearing shoes as well. So depending on how long you've been wearing your socks and or shoes, you may be able to feel sweat on your feet. Unless you suffer from anhidrosis, this is pretty much unavoidable, and because of that, our team knew that our product would need to withstand large amounts of moisture. Moisture around the foot can also occur if your socks or shoes get wet from stepping in puddles or being out in the rain or snow. Other than the fact that wet socks and shoes are possibly the grossest feeling in the world, excessive moisture left around the feet can pose health risks as the warm and now moist environment of your feet become breeding grounds for bacteria and fungi. We also knew that we needed our product to be low maintenance, since this would be catered towards people with very few resources. This meant that the product needs to be effective even if the user can't clean or replace it often. With these specifications set in place, the team could then move on to coming up with a solution that would accomplish all the things we wanted it to.
After refining our problem comes the exciting part, finding the solution. The process of taking an undefined idea that has unlimited potential and slowly making decisions that with each one make the product just a little bit more real.
Part of the process of coming up with solutions, we researched previous solutions that could possibly work for our problem. After we had compiled a list of patents, we started to shorten the list to the few that would really benefit the team. We will now discuss the 3 patents the team found that helped us brainstorm our product. The first orthotic device is a heel and arch support sleeve that consists of an elastic sleeve adapted to fit over the foot and heel. It also includes an interchangeable heel pad to relieve pressure and shock. The sleeve is made out of an elastomeric material that provides compression to help treat swelling. The heel pad is a polymeric plastisol material that provides cushioning and can be cooled to provide cold therapy if needed. This product allows for maximum support and cushion for the heel and arch area of the foot. The heel absorbs most of the impact forces when walking, and the cushioning under the heel can provide relief to users that experience pain from the impact of walking. Alongside this, the compression sleeve promotes healthy circulation throughout the foot. Compression socks work by applying pressure to the leg and foot area, which helps blood vessels work more efficiently. When blood vessels work efficiently, arteries relax and blood flow improves. The pressure applied helps the veins get blood back to the heart, which promotes a healthy circulation. This has many health benefits, including less swelling, less pain, and no achy or tired feeling in the leg and foot. These socks use high elasticity yarn to apply appropriate compression to the shin, calf, instep, sole, heel, and toes. They also implement a multi-stage compressive knitting technology that allows the socks to adjust lateral tensile force and compression. Blood circulation is very important to keep swelling down, and to promote circulation, the sock presses the blood bilaterally across the foot and leg. Massaging footwear uses raised bumps to massage the foot as the user walks. Some massaging footwear takes advantage of reflexology, which is a belief based on the theory that different parts of the foot are connected to certain organs, muscle groups, and body systems. As pressure is applied to the foot, each part of it is massaged. This provides relief to the corresponding body system, which can be a huge benefit to someone who spends most of their day on their feet. The specific footwear has an integrated insole that features a plurality of raised bumps, specially located to massage certain parts of the foot. This patent seemed like it would be very helpful to our team. However, upon further research, we concluded that at the moment, there is no sound evidence that the principle behind reflexology is true.
Going from our design specifications, we started to see an outline, and if we squinted really hard, we could start to see our solution. We wanted to see what you think the product will become, or if you already know, maybe an alternative solution or feature. Feel free to post multiple ideas in the chat to answer the question. What would your solution be? So I realize this is a hard question, and I think we were stuck too. We couldn't at the start find any solutions, and so we had to go about it in a different way. And in the next slide, we're going to show you how we started developing those solutions.
When thinking of solutions, our team wanted to be very broad. One of the things we emphasized on was quantity over quality. This strategy of brainstorming allowed us to come up with a total of 30 ideas. Our team chose a random topic and we blurted out ideas that fit into that category. This was one of the most exciting assignments. Our team spent about 3 days on pure brainstorming. We didn't cast any idea to the side, no matter how crazy it was. The spectrum ranged from gorilla feet to triangles, which are things one wouldn't think of when trying to solve any type of health issue. Once the ideas were generated, we began to narrow them down based on interest and potential. In the end, each team member chose a total of 2 ideas. We conducted research and discussions amongst ourselves to figure out what the best solution would be.
After a few days of purely brainstorming, we saw that while our ideas were very creative and unique, we needed to make sure that they were both feasible and viable. We split up our long list of concepts, and each member did extensive research on each of them. Along the way, we found that some solutions wouldn't be feasible given our deadlines and resources, and others weren't as effective as initially thought. After roughly 2 weeks of researching and eliminating non-viable ideas, we went from 30 ideas to 12 to 8 to 6. But suddenly a pattern emerged. It was at this point the team realized we had taken a different path than other teams. While other teams had separate ideas to choose from, our research and selection method had left homeless health solutions with only one concept in mind: a compression sock. The other 5 ideas shown in the table would function as features for the solution. This was ideal because compression socks help regulate blood flow in the feet to reduce swelling, fatigue, and aches, which are all common in people facing homelessness as they are on their feet more than the average person. So instead, we pinned the rest of the ideas against each other as features. In this table, we each rated them based on criteria that came from a mix of what the homeless value in the product and what we do. This resulted in sorbethane gel being rejected from our design.
As you can see in the decision matrix, we couldn't really decide on just one feature. The 3 features that were rated the highest were the antimicrobial and waterproof features, as well as the incorporation of a thin insole. Having the sock with antimicrobial properties would be hugely beneficial because it would lower the risk of the user developing bacterial or fungal infections in their feet. Now, I saw a lot of people put in the chat with ideas surrounding keeping the feet dry, and we had the same thought process. The team liked the idea of having a waterproof sock because we wanted to lower the amount of moisture in the user's feet. As we explained earlier, excessive moisture can lead to increased bacterial and fungal growth. Later on in our design process, however, we ended up changing this idea so that the sock would be moisture wicking rather than waterproof. Some of the experts we consulted with, Jason Page and Jacob Skura, informed us that a completely waterproof sock may turn out to be counterintuitive. This is because while a waterproof sock would keep moisture from coming into the sock, it would also keep moisture, such as the sweat from your feet, from getting out of the sock, meaning that it would be trapped inside. Instead, we opted to make our product wick moisture. This means that the moisture would be allowed to easily pass through the sock to the outside so it can evaporate, leaving the sock dry. The next feature we wanted to implement was an insole. This would be attached with a flap on the underside of the sock. Initially, we believed that providing an insole would give the user support and cushioning, which would alleviate pain in the heel and prevent arch collapse.
The selection process of choosing the right materials and manufacturing techniques required some of the most in-depth research we did all semester. With the help of our experts and mentor, we were able to confidently choose what was best for our product. There were many questions that needed to be answered beyond just what materials to use. Some of the important information we needed was what percentage of each material would be used in our product, what's the best way to attach the insole pocket to the sock, and how do sock knitting machines even work. To gain this knowledge, we reached out to our experts who gave us great insight into these different topics. When choosing materials and knitting patterns, we had to consider how much friction each of the different areas of the sock will have to withstand. One way the team plans to combat this issue is to use a knitting technique called a double knit. Instead of knitting the 2 layers of fabric together, they will be side by side in certain sections where there are large amounts of friction. Having 2 layers of the sock material rubbing against each other will lower the friction coefficient compared to the sock rubbing against the inside of a shoe. It will also allow us to use multiple materials within the layers.
For our antimicrobial feature, we will be using bamboo fabric, which contains a naturally occurring bioagent called bamboo coon. This is the same agent that makes bamboo resistant to pests and infections. When the fibers are made into a fabric, the feature is preserved so the fabric has antimicrobial properties. It is also environmentally friendly, with bamboo requiring no pesticides to grow.
We will also be using recycled PET, or recycled polyethylene terephthalate, which is a polymer made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen molecules common in plastic bottles. Unlike other textiles such as cotton, linen, and wool that get weaker when recycled, recycled PET remains just as strong as it was when it was first produced. It is also pretty sustainable. In comparison to oil-based PET fibers, producing our PET yarns uses 94% less water and 60% less energy. There's also a 32% reduction in carbon dioxide emissions. Our PET also provides the wicking ability the team is looking for in our product. Our PET is already being implemented into various types of clothing, and it will be a great addition to our product.
And finally, we chose spandex to add the one-size-fits-all characteristic to our product. But not only compressing and stretching with size, it will also add a compression force within the sock. Spandex is a durable material and is already used in many forms of fitting garments. It allows the process of a product's degradation to the sunlight and body oil. Spandex is much more expensive material than when compared with the others in our design, but we will only need spandex to make up 2% of each product to satisfy the purpose, allowing us to negate that issue.
In addition to the many challenges the team faced this semester, we ran into the problem of creating a three-dimensional model of our product. With other teams having more solid shapes for their designs, they could easily model it in a computer modeling program. After consulting with our mentors and Mr. Davidson, we came to the realization that a 3D model of our product would not be time efficient and that there are other ways to show our design. We eventually decided to create hand-drawn technical sketches for our product to showcase its features and dimensions. The sketch on the far left shows the dimensions for the adult size sock and the stitching pattern used to attach the pocket to the bottom of the sock. The stitching pattern being used is called a zigzag stitch and is capable of compressing and flexing with the sock. When speaking with our mentors, many discussions were based around a similar question. What is the best way to attach the pocket? The team brainstormed many ways, but with the help of Ms. Resnick, one final plan was settled on. As you can see in the middle and right images, we found the most efficient way to produce and secure the pocket is to program the knitting machine to continue knitting even after the sock shape is complete. This additional knitting will just be a flat piece attached at the toe. After the knitting is complete, it will be folded back and sewn on the sides using a zigzag stitch, and the back will be kept open so that the user can insert an orthotic insole if needed.
The image on the left shows how the heel of the sock is knitted. Ms. Resnick explained this to us by sketching out a shape like the one shown. Using a sock knitting machine, we're able to knit a long tube with an hourglass shape in the middle. This hourglass is then bent in so that it creates the heel portion of the sock. On the right, you can see the calculations of the dimensions for the youth and adult sizes. The drawing of the sock shows alphabetically listed segments that correspond to the table that also lists the adult and youth measurements for the sock. The adult measurements came from a standard universal fit that we found through research. The youth measurements were calculated by the team to be proportional to the adult size but better fit for children. To do this, we set up a ratio between the segments for the adult and youth sizes, and we solved for the unknown youth measurements.
Even with internet sources and all the research conducted, we are still very new to the world of production, health, marketing, textiles, and practically anything that goes into this project. With questions at every step of the way, the team decided to consult with experts and mentors. Sending professional emails to people we have never met before was no one's strength. Looking back, I remember that one of the first few emails sent just asked someone if they could meet with us because they were referred to us by our mentor. We didn't include who we were, what we do, or any background information. Jacob, whom we sent the email to, replied, and we met via Google Meets many times. Jacob has really influenced our project in a great way, and I'm really glad he responded to our sketchy email. With practice, we have become better at contacting experts, and we have even created an email template that introduces the team and provides information on what we do. Through these templates, we have made connections with many professionals and received advice and guidance through virtual meetings.
Which is why we took many detailed notes in our engineering notebooks. Our extensive notes made it easy to refer back to when we needed bits of information, and because we also kept track of the dates each meeting, we could accurately cite them. Ms. Bartnick has been the team's mentor for the whole semester and has always given us great external feedback on our ideas. She has also helped us edit our written documents to make sure the team's writing is clear, concise, and professional. Jason Page is a co-owner of the Bull City Running Company and has helped us understand how feet work, how problems can develop, and how orthotics can help. He also warned us that insoles may be hard to make and that it can't be made in a one-size-fits-all way. This is because insoles work best if made custom to fit the user's needs. If an insole does not meet the specific needs of the user's feet, or if an insole is used when the user does not need one, it can actually cause more structural problems in that person's feet. Because of this, the team decided it was best to omit the insole from our product. Unfortunately, that meant our product would be less unique, but we didn't want to cause new problems by trying to implement our own insoles. Despite this change, we still decided to have a part of the sock that would hold an insole if the user had one. Jacob Skiora, a textile engineering student at NC State, has given the team information on how textiles could realistically be put in. Leah Resnick is the manager of the knitting lab at NC State and has given us an in-depth look into the process of knitting.
Through a conference call, she gave us the unique opportunity of seeing the different types of knitting machines in the lab, and she explained how they worked. She also helped us figure out how to attach the pocket to the sock. With the team being pretty new to the world of textiles, we came to Leah and Jacob with lots of questions and were able to get valuable feedback from them in order to make adjustments to our design.
When considering the efficiency of getting our product to the people that needed it, we realized our current plan might not be the best. If we decided to only donate our product, we'd have to get funding from local governments and homeless shelters, which may be difficult. Instead, we decided to make our product available to everyone through purchases. This allows us to have better funding for our donations. After some diligent research, we found the one-for-one business model. One-for-one, also known as the buy one, give one, is a business model in which a company will make a donation of some size for each product sold. The donation is usually 1 unit of their product, but it can also be a monetary donation. For example, for every product sold, $5 will be donated to a certain charity. Homeless Health Solutions has chosen to donate 1 pair of our socks for every pair sold. With the one-for-one model, we will still be able to operate as a nonprofit organization, able to pay salaries for our employees. Any money brought in from the purchases will be put back into the company for manufacturing, salaries, and most importantly, more donations.
This kind of business model has been criticized by many because of the reasons that some companies adopt it. Many companies use it to boost their public image and are not actually interested in helping others or the social change it can have. Homeless Health Solutions will not encounter this problem because in the beginning, the team planned to only donate their product to those in need. It was eventually realized that with the one-for-one model, more people could be reached rather than through just doing donations. Many companies go the other way in their business planning. They only sell their product, and when sales are low, they switch to the one-for-one model to increase sales as well as their public image. Homeless Health Solutions has prioritized the homeless population from the start and values our contribution to the homeless over any sort of profit.
Through extensive research and help from our experts, we were able to create a step-by-step plan on how our product will be built. Because of the little time, quarantine, and other factors, we weren't able to build our product. However, the following slides describe the build procedure if we were able to do so. The first few steps deal with the material of the sock. The bamboo and RPET will be turned into yarn and placed in a circular knitting machine that is programmed to produce a sock. This will create a tube-like shape, but in our case, there will be an extra extension off of the toe so it can later be used as a pocket like mentioned earlier. The machine will then close the toe area and the long flap will be brought back to create the pocket.
The next steps comprise the finishing steps of manufacturing the sock. In this finishing process, the Homeless Health Solutions logo will be embroidered on the sock. It will be washed and dried and put on a metal frame. Once on the frame, the sock will be passed through a steam press. The threads will mold to the frame. When you put the sock on your foot, which is larger than the frame, the sock compresses your foot, creating a compression sock.
Then the socks will be inspected to make sure they've been knitted correctly, and they'll be paired and labeled. Then each pair of socks will go through another round of quality inspection to make sure the socks are of high quality and that there are no defects present. Once the socks have been checked, they'll be packaged into boxes and placed into a warehouse until they're ready to be transported.
Once the socks are boxed and ready for transportation, they're loaded onto freight trucks where they will be taken to the distribution centers. From there, they will be distributed to the stores where they will be sold.
As we come to the end of the process, there's still one more thing we need to do. We have a problem to solve, a solution to the problem, and a plan for the product. To make sure our product is successful, we have to run it through tests. But since there isn't a product, we can't test it. In the following slides, we will talk about the types of testing procedures our product would undergo if we had a physical product.
It goes without saying, but we want our product to be the best it possibly can be. To make this happen, the product needed to have a testing plan that could challenge it in different ways, and by passing it, we would know the product was high quality. We then broke it down, considering what customers valued in the sock and making sure those aspects were tested. With this idea, we developed 5 criteria: friction resistance, antibacterial ability, wicking ability, compression, and general fit. For each criteria, we consulted AATC, ASTM, and other industry standards to find 2 testing methods for each. To decide between the 2, we referenced our design specifications. Knowing that cost and quality would be in struggle, we aimed to choose the test that represented the best balance between the 2, which resulted in the following tests. To test how the sock performs against friction, we placed the sock material on treads and subject it to weights ranging from 30 to 100 pounds and distances ranging from 0 to 10 millimeters from the treads, running it at 10 miles per hour and reporting damages resulting from each variation of the test. If the sock can support 200 cycles at each weight, it passes intense conditions and is more than suitable for day-to-day use, meaning high quality for our users. To determine the product's antibacterial ability, we will expose the sock material to a sample of mold in a petri dish and observe what distance the mold expands to, or if it recedes. If the sock keeps the mold contained or the mold loses ground, the sock has antibacterial properties or our specifications.
To test the wicking ability of the sock, a strip of the material will be cut and positioned so threads point vertically. Drops of water will be added in different amounts, and the distance they travel vertically will be recorded. Water is able to move against gravity as a result of the capillary action, which states water can move against gravity in a tube and moves higher depending on how thin the tube is and how fine the material is that makes up the tube. This is due to the intermolecular forces of water. This is fundamental to how wicking works. If the sock moves the water more than 6 inches, it has above industry standard wicking ability. To find the compression level, we will use a tensile testing machine. During this process, strips of the sock are stretched out, and then we record the time it takes to return to the original form. Based on these findings, we will know the conditions and stresses the material can endure. To find how well our sock has a general fit, we will use a trial that will require people of multiple foot sizes to wear the sock and report on the feel. This will not only give us information on whether or not the sock is a one-size-fits-all product, but also give us information directly from the people wearing it.
Although STEM principles are applied in every aspect of our product, here are our main highlights where STEM is incorporated. The team used science when trying to figure out how much spandex our product would need. There was no clear answer on the internet, no guide, no charts that could tell us what % of our product would need to be made out of spandex. To get a better understanding for material percentages, we decided to do an experiment where we each chose 3 pieces of clothing and observed how the amount of material affected the overall use and liking of each piece. Through our observation, we concluded that 2% spandex would be needed for our sock. This was later confirmed by Jacob, our textile expert.
Some pieces of technology we've been exposed to through research and consultation with experts were knitting machines. Ms. Resnick showed us the various knitting machines that were available at NC State, such as flat knitting machines and sock knitting machines, otherwise known as circular knitting machines. Ms. Resnick showed us how the sock knitting machine works, which was hugely important to the team since this would be the machine used to make our product.
We applied the engineering principle when writing out the step-by-step building process mentioned earlier. This allowed the team to know what the manufacturing process would contain, things that will be needed, and the overall order in which to produce the product.
Lastly, math was applied mainly in the process of calculating the measurements for the youth size sock. As explained earlier, ratios were set up between the youth and adult segments so that the unknown values could be solved for.
In any large project, reflection plays a key role. Being able to look at something from the past and learning from it was especially important for us, allowing us to learn and grow in many different ways.
Each and every one of us has come a long way. From sounding like a robot, rambling on, speaking softly, and extending slides, we have grown as presenters. Like said before, we were definitely not prepared for our individual presentations on the first week of class. Now that we have a team who supports us, gives each other pointers and feedbacks, we have all grown confident in presenting. Although our team never really talked face to face, we have formed a connection that goes past our screens. This connection allows us to feel relaxed and enthusiastic about presenting. Our team works really well together when we each have strengths that add a signature to our presentations. Although we are individuals, we value similar things when presenting. Our team is not the team to follow the rubric. We love to add as much reflection as we can, and we share what we think is important. Our presenting skills have not improved solely from confidence and extensive hours of practicing. We have also had a lot of help from our mentor, Ms. Bartnick, who has given us pointers and has advised us after each presentation. Her ideas on presenting, such as standing up, having more than one team member speak per slide, has helped us better ourselves when presenting and has set us apart from others.
Looking back, the team recognizes that we could have done some things differently in order to improve our work. For example, when it came to getting information from outside sources, we wanted to reach out to more experts, including those in manufacturing and podiatry. If I could go back, I would contact more experts early on. Throughout the semester, I realized that it's unrealistic to expect to hear back from every single person I've reached out to. Additionally, we realized that the process of exchanging emails and trying to set up meeting dates could take longer than expected. By starting this process early on and reaching out to more people, we would be able to meet with more experts and have time to consult with them before our deadlines.
Despite this class being virtual, I believe it was the most beneficial class of my time in high school. Throughout each section of the project, I gained new knowledge and many skills I will use later on in my life, such as presenting and organization skills, working in a team setting, and technical writing. At the beginning of the class, I was treating it like every other class I'd been in before until I looked at what my teammates were doing and saw the level of work they were producing. I quickly changed things around and started allocating more of my time towards this class. I feel very fortunate to be surrounded by a team that will push me to a new level of productivity and professionalism. As I progress in life, I will always be seeking groups of people like this team, those who will help me progress further rather than hold me back.
Doing anything the first time, chances are you aren't going to kill it. I'm really proud of the work we've done, but there are some things I could have done better. I remember in the start when we would be trying to make a decision, I wanted to make sure it was the right one. So I wanted everybody to know every aspect of every issue of the decision we were making so we could make the best choice. And so I wouldn't just begin word vomiting. I would start arguing both sides of the possibilities out loud, thinking eventually I would get to some answer or maybe even something of use. I never did, and usually just tired myself out. It took me a few times, but I realized that was not helpful. This, along with a few other lessons, let me learn that perfection is a stupid idea, and half the time, the direction I thought perfection was in led to 3 times as many issues. It was things like that where, through my team's patience, I got better. I learned a lot, and if I could start the semester over with the knowledge I have now, I'm sure my team would have been a lot better off, but somehow they got through my learning process.
I often sit back and think about why I joined this class. In the beginning of the semester, I wanted to be a part of EDD because of the project management component. I've now realized that it is much more than that. As we went more in depth with our project, researched, and discovered a solution to an overlooked problem, it became apparent not only to me, but the team as well, that we wanted to make our solution become a reality. Our solution is something that can be achieved and brought to real life. Presenting and showing our work to an audience like yourselves really makes this a reality. This is a next step not only for this course, but our potential future as well. With more time, resources, equipment, and not being virtual, I think our team would have made an impact within the homeless population.
Thank you to everyone who came today to watch us, and special thank you to our experts, Mr. Page, Mr. Skewer, and Ms. Resnick for offering their time to patiently walk us through complex topics free of charge. Thank you to our mentor, Ms. Bartnick, who watched us progress from the start of the year and provided insight on the step we needed to make our goals real. And thank you to Mr. Davidson for giving us the opportunity to even do this kind of thing and doing work behind the scenes like making graphs, emails, and entertaining YouTube videos that made the class great.
We appreciate your attention and are proud to show you all of the work we've done this past semester. This concludes our final defense presentation, and we'll now be moving on to questions and comments. Please feel free to utilize the raise hand feature in Zoom, and we'll call on you, or you can drop your questions in the chat.
I wanted to speak up and just tell your team, I've watched all 4 of the presentations from EDD. You guys did an excellent job of balancing your roles, and each of you speaking and contributing to the presentation. You did a fantastic job. The other thing I really wanted to praise you about, of all the presentations I've seen, you did the most work of consulting experts who are really experts in your field and getting the feedback that you needed to fine tune your projects. So I just wanted to commend you in that. You did a fantastic job. I had one question. I understood your fact of why you had to remove the insole as part of your product because of the specifications of that. So I'm just wondering then, when you go back to just having the sock, what makes your sock different than other compression socks that are on the market?
I can go ahead and take this question.
Okay.
Okay. So we did realize that taking out the insole would make the product lose a lot of how it was unique, but we still saw that with its antimicrobial features and the water wicking features, it set it apart from a lot of socks already on the market. Additionally, we wanted to keep the pocket on the underside of the sock, so that way if the user did have an insole, or if other homeless organizations such as like Paws or the other ones that we referenced were able to give them insoles, they could utilize them and they could use the pocket.
Great, thank you.
I see Aubrey Sterling is the first one raising their hand.
Hey, first of all, fantastic presentation. You guys did a really great job in terms of both your presenting, you each did a great job presenting it, but the presentation itself was put together really nicely too. The graphics all made sense. I thought the information you put on the slides was the perfect amount, and then you elaborated on that really well. So really, really great job. I also have a question about the pocket on the bottom though. So when you're designing clothing for homeless populations, I'm wondering if you took into consideration the maintenance or the regular cleaning that it would be needing, especially having a pocket on the underside of the foot. I imagine that would collect a lot of dirt. So did you guys consider what might be done about that to keep it a hygienic product?
Yeah, our antimicrobial feature helps with that. Just kind of keep it more clean and like we said, keeps the foot free of infections. And then also we wanted to make it last as long as we want, or as long as we could, with the double knitting feature, so that it would take longer for it to wear out. So with that, it has kind of a longer shelf, or a longer life out, a longer life before it has to be replaced. And so hopefully it could last at least a year or so before we could get more donations out to the people that need them.
Thank you.
And piggybacking off of that, like you said, yeah, dirt can get onto the sock, but with the antimicrobial features, we want to make sure that even if stuff gets on the sock, at least it's not going to be affecting the user. So with the antimicrobial feature, there's less of a chance of any bacteria or fungi thriving in the environment of their feet.
All right. Next, I see Lily Montgomery.
Yeah, what's your team's estimate on the cost to produce per sock?
So cost to production, we broke that down in build procedure. We didn't add that component. We were more focused on other aspects. I think in the start, we talked a little bit about, we couldn't share every moment, but the cost of materials, I can get you exact numbers by pulling it up in a second if you want, but it was around $10, and then the price for the product would be around there as well, because it's not a really complex way to manufacture it.
Gotcha. Just making sure, especially with the buy one, get one model, right? You always want to integrate if you're thinking about producing it, right? And cost does get cheaper the bigger scale you go, right? But thinking about, okay, we need to factor in almost 2 pairs of socks for the price of one, and what that will take to manufacture. I have another follow-up question. You guys mentioned that you're using the bamboo, right, for the antimicrobial. It's also good, environmentally friendly. But thinking about bamboo, there's 2 ways to kind of turn that into a fabric, either mechanically or chemically. And I saw you guys chose to go the chemical route. Do you want to kind of describe that decision process with that?
Somebody else want to grab this question? I don't really know how to answer it. Sorry.
Yeah. So when we're looking into how bamboo can be used into clothes, we did find those ways that you were explaining. There's a mechanical and a chemical route. And this is where I wish we could have gotten more feedback from experts that knew more about this process. But ultimately, we chose the, I guess, more chemical route because that's just what we didn't see a whole lot of difference between the two. And I'm still not sure if there's a huge difference between the two. And I think with more expert consultation, especially with someone in manufacturing, we'd be able to give you a better answer on that.
Yeah.
And I'll get back to you about the numbers. My computer is currently loading the technical report.
That's okay. Yeah, with the mechanical versus chemical, definitely the chemical is more widely available, but there are some concerns in terms of the sustainability, right? Even though bamboo is a very sustainable plant, right? Just those chemicals and VOCs, especially being released into the atmosphere. So just something to consider. I know you guys only had a semester, but something for more long term if you had longer with the project. But thank you, and great job, guys. I just want to say how great your presentation was too off the top. So thank you.
Yeah. So I wanted to add to you had the question about asking about prices. So we thought of it as buying the materials in bulk instead of just for one sock. So the RPET, it's 450 yards for $1.68 per kilogram. And then the bamboo fabric is also the same amount of yards, but it's $6.10 per kilogram. And then for the spandex, it's 9.5 yards, since we won't be using as much. And that is $3.75.
Gotcha. Thank you so much, Esme. Yeah. So especially coming from my industry, it's a plastics industry, and the margins are so thin, and it's kind of the same sometimes in fashion in terms of the fabrics that you're using and things like that. It's always good to keep price kind of in that forefront. But thank you for that, guys. Great job.
John Bayer's next.
Let me just also echo what has been said by others, that this was a fantastic presentation. Actually, I have thoroughly enjoyed kind of seeing both, you described kind of in real processing time, how you've grown through this class, as well as just the product itself and the thought that kind of was put into it. I have a couple observations, if you don't mind, a couple follow-up questions after my initial question. But first, I just want to say, you all have demonstrated excellent Zoom competence. I can't imagine how to learn process for something like Zoom and some software that has to be done, and y'all have mastered that well. The other is I appreciate the fact that y'all took focus on a project that looked at probably the least desired part of the body to kind of address. Foot health and feet in general are really kind of put down at the bottom of the list for many people, and yet it ends up being the most important or one of the most important things that can be done. So your willingness to actually look at the foot, even though it's not a really magical or dynamic or just sexy kind of thing topic, I think you need to be commended on, because it is a practical, needful thing as far as what our homeless population has. So kudos to you on that. If it weren't for the foot, we wouldn't be the humans that we are, and yet we don't really appreciate that. So I appreciate that. Let me also ask about the product. I know that we have the pocket that you've said, which really does make your sock unique. And I know that right now we're not suggesting an insole that might come with the product itself, although several could be considered. Just by having the extra flap of fabric, let me just ask, do you feel like that actually helps with the wear and tear of the sock, with the cushioning that provides additional through, or even the compression that might be afforded with that? And the second question to that is whether or not you think homeless might use that flap for other things besides insole.
Yeah, definitely. When we talked about the double knitting feature, the sock and the pocket will kind of have that same the same characteristics that the double knitting will have, of just kind of lowering that friction. And then very early on, we also researched, or one of our problems that we were going to look into is that homeless people don't really have a safe place to store valuables or little things that they need. Just being on the streets at night and everything, there's nowhere really to keep stuff that's too valuable. So I think that could be another possible feature for the pocket, just keeping cash or other things in there.
I do want to ask one follow-up question to each of you, if you don't mind. And as a psychiatrist, I always am just fascinated by the process that goes on. And I know that Mr. Stern, you kind of take the team lead on that, and Mr. Saab, you kind of looked especially at research, and Mr. Hernandez, project management for how to put this all together, and of course, Ms. Jackson about outreach and communicating with people. I'm interested in what each of you found that really played to your strength, or was a challenge. What really excited you about the process? Was it scripting a presentation, marketing anticipation, the actual problem itself, being an idea person, being an organizer, or being a manager for the project? What for you do you kind of identify as being the thing that really attracted you about projects like this, and that you find either your strength or the greatest challenge? And if you don't mind, I'd like to hear from each of you about that.
So I think we should go in the order that he talked about us in. I'm first. So I think we couldn't have done as much work if we weren't fully invested in the product and we were really passionate about it. I think each one of us really cared about this problem, and I think that's reflected in the 108 pages of the technical report. The thing that I found really enjoyable was kind of being the idea man and going far out there sometimes. I think as someone who's trying to keep us on track, that might have been an issue sometimes, and I definitely derailed us. Trying to, maybe we could do this thing and it was really far out there, and then, realizing that it had nothing to do with our problem or something like that. But, it brought up another discussion, which kind of opened it up to other ideas, which I always found fun. My biggest challenge was just detail. I think it's the opposite. I needed the rest of my team to kind of pick up the slack. Missing really big details was kind of my character, and they made up for that.
Yeah, I think for me, just like we said, the technical things, I like little details. I was not too thrilled about more of the creative process, I guess, in the beginning of brainstorming problems or stuff like that. But I think once we had the problem and solution in place, I kind of really came into stride of just finding information that we needed, and yeah, just kind of researching and stuff like that.
Yeah, for me, at first when I came into this class, I already had the idea of there was like this course overview, and one of the things was project management, and that was what really caught my attention. And then while we were doing this project, as time passed, I became more in love with the process as well, seeing how my teammates really put a lot of work into it. It also made me love that process as well. But my strength, like said, project management, I'm the one to, like George, who would derail with like a whole bunch of crazy ideas, and it was totally fine. But I would be the one like, okay guys, let's get back to work. This is due tomorrow. So yeah, that's my thing.
And for me, I would say I'm pretty much the opposite of what Ben said. My favorite part throughout the whole process was like having the creative space not only to come up with like a problem out of everything in the world we could have chose, trying to come up with really specific problems that we see in the world, and also trying to come up with solutions for those problems. As we mentioned early on in our brainstorming process, we generated like 30 ideas, and all of those ideas, like not all of them you would immediately think of when you thought of foot health. Like I'm sure we mentioned gorilla feet, triangles. We had tried to implement really bizarre things into our thinking process, such as like geometry or relating our product to how animals work. So for me, I really enjoyed that process of using creativity to try to make our product more unique. Less so of trying to figure out how we'd actually get it to work, but I liked having the creative space to do that.
Yeah.
Let me just again commend each of you for finding your voice through this process. I hear all four of you throughout this process, and it's fantastic to hear all four of you, as well as one voice for a team, and also with the idea that what you're doing is not just for a grade, but it's actually to benefit something bigger than this class. And so should all be commended for those things. Thank you.
Thank you. So Daniel Kelly's next, and then after we get through the people raising their hand, we'll go into the comments in chat.
Yeah, again, I would have to echo the quality of the work, especially the research that went into this. And I mentioned it in the evaluation forum that some of this research and the level of detail you went into is what I would expect from some of my graduate students, and especially given the short time frame that you did this in under unreal circumstances, that should be commended. But since you quizzed us at the beginning, I thought it was only fair to ask you a question that you did not mention in here. But given the level of research, I think you know this. In this space, who would be your biggest competitor?
So I think there's a few answers to that. Do you guys want to kind of go through like the multiple ones? I know we have to wrap this up in 15 minutes.
There's one big one that I'm thinking about. If you watch Shark Tank, you'd know it.
Does anybody on the team watch Shark Tank?
Oh, you guys need to watch Shark Tank then. Anyways, there's a company called Bombas Socks that started very similar to what you're doing, where they were looking at, the social aspect of business, being able to donate. And they donate one pair of socks per purchase, right? The problem that they ran into is very similar to what you guys brought up. And I really love that you brought up this research angle and with the business side of it, and saying you wanted to stay in the nonprofit space, and the fact that there were companies that use this to their advantage. But Bombas Socks specifically tried that. And what they ran into was, in order to raise enough money to be able to be viable as a company, doing it as a nonprofit didn't allow for investors. It didn't allow for people to make money with them. And so the scalability was hurt. And then they went to a for-profit company. And the biggest thing I can tell you is going, if this is something you choose to pursue, that look at their model and what they went through, because it's a direct analog to what you're trying to do. And they do fantastic work, and there's plenty of room for multiple people in the space. but I think that has the biggest relation to what you're trying to accomplish here. But I love the social aspect of it. And
we actually have that in the technical report, and we tried to reach out to them, and we also use them as a model. So yeah, we understand that Bombas would be a competitor, but also we're kind of a different thing, being a compression sock versus just normal socks. They are.
Yeah, no, like I said, even if you were doing the exact same thing, I think there's space for both. What I'm saying is if you go forward, I think looking at their model going from the nonprofit space and why they weren't able to be successful in that, because trying to raise money as a nonprofit is difficult. But working with this population that you're working with or hope to work with, there are a lot of needs, and this is definitely one of them. So I really enjoy that aspect of this. So if you go forward with it, I'd be happy to provide any resources at all. I think this is awesome. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bartnick.
All right, guys. I didn't want to jump in early. I wanted everybody else to get a chance to give their feedback on your presentation. I want to tell you once again, I think you all did a super job. It has been an absolute delight to watch you all grow and to be part of that process. Even when sometimes I thought maybe you were all losing your minds with some of the things you wanted to research. But I enjoyed that because it really showed that you were pushing the boundaries and really not letting anything stop your creative process. And I really appreciated that. I was sometimes worried where we were going to go, but we got to a really great place. And that is totally because, yes, they researched Gorilla Feet people. Yes, we got to a really great place. And that's because you were all dedicated and you all really want this to be something that works. Shout out to Dan if he says he is willing to share ideas and research with you as you go forward, because I know that's something that you've talked about. Dan is a great resource, and Adam can get you specifically hooked up with him as well. Really like Dan, really love that he came to the meeting in his Bills jersey. Go Bills. And we, us Bills fans, appreciate the fact that you had this meeting late enough for us to get in our playoff game today. But you guys did a fabulous job. And I hope as you move forward through college and in life that you don't let this project fall just in your rearview mirror, and somehow you come together and make it a successful venture. And with your success on Zoom, no matter where you all go to school in the next few months, you're going to be able to do that. So stay in touch. Because your network that you've started to build here will benefit you in the future. So make sure you keep in touch. But great job, guys, and so proud of you and the work that you did.
Yeah, I could definitely see how our brainstorming process got a little bit worrying when we brought up those really weird solutions. But thank you for sticking with us. All right, Joe, you're next.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it was an amazing presentation. I can say this as a student who's been with you throughout this semester, and kind of going off of previous presentations you've had, you have all kept your thoroughness and attention to detail and passion throughout the entire semester. That's very impressive. Something that you guys should be very proud of. This presentation especially was great because anyone, all the work you've done throughout this semester, they'd have a complete understanding of all the work you did, the process you went through. It's very, very impressive.
Thank you. We tried to kind of give a synopsis of all the other presentations that we've done. But obviously, I think like we said, we aren't, the robot people that we started off with. And, with our presentation skills changing, we had to update the format, but I think that came out well. More people are raising their hands. Oh, I guess we can go in that and then immediately into the chat questions. Okay.
Want me to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
It was a good job, very good job, actually. As far as how you came together as a team, that was nice to hear about. It probably was something that it really wasn't so much part of the rubric, but it was still good to hear about. And I guess somebody's got to be the Simon Cowell here a little bit, but and I'm not an evaluator, so this is just comments. But your problem statement was really about foot problems with homeless.
Mhm.
And while you then went on to design a really good sock, if you were to really measure the success, you would have something that would be looking to see once that sock was actually in the population that you wanted to deliver it to, that it was making an improvement. So just kind of, sometimes I think when you start with a problem statement and then you kind of get off, okay, now I'm going to solve it. I'm going to have a really good product, but if it never makes it to your population. And I think Glenn, I think I saw a comment he had out there, was asking about how you were going to get it to the population.
Just like asking Glenn's question. Oh, was that just a comment? All right.
So I can touch on kind of how we were envisioning our product would get to the homeless. So initially, before we had even moved from the one-to-one model, we wanted to sell directly to the homeless shelters and organizations so that they could then distribute the product to the homeless, since they already have a good reach on the homeless, both sheltered and unsheltered. When we moved to the one-for-one model, the process is almost the same, except the socks that we'd be giving to the organizations would be donated. They wouldn't have to pay for it. And when we give them to the organizations, they'll still be able to give them to the homeless for free, because once again, they already have a good reach on both sheltered and unsheltered people facing homelessness.
So would you think about maybe following up then, after you knew that there were a certain number of your product that was actually out there on their feet, that you'd be able to do some kind of follow-up down the road and say, hey, how did it really help their problems? Because it's sort of, there's an assumption that you come up with this good product and it's going to be made like you believe it should be made, that's going to help. And now you've answered how you get it to them. Do you take it to the next step and say, did it really help? So.
Yeah, actually in our technical report, there's part of an element that focuses just on that. And so basically what we had planned to do is, after we sent out our product, we would want to survey the users, mainly in the homeless population, to see if it was actually working, problems they had encountered. And from whatever data we get from that, we would make adjustments and improvements to the sock.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yep.
So that was actually
the
only question I saw in the chat. And Sophie Wilkins is next. Sorry, what Emily?
No, you're fine.
Sophie.
Okay, yeah. Hi, I'm Sophie. I'm a student from one of the first period teams, Umbrella Academy, and I just wanted to reiterate, y'all did a fantastic job presenting, and it was just really inspiring, like all that you went through and how you showed the process that you had gone through, and just like, I would like to say that like this is an ideal model for EDD classes moving forward. And like, if it's ever implemented again at Riverside, like this is the standard that would be ideal for students and teams to be held to, with how well they did and everything, and also in showcasing what they had done, even because even if you had done all of this work, if you couldn't properly present it, it wouldn't seem that you had done good work. So props and kudos to you, and you're almost done.
Thank you. Yeah. Hi, Joe. You raised your hand again?
Yeah, I'm back. Kind of going off what Sophie just said, I just wanted to point out kind of the influence you had even on our team. as far as like the standard you guys have set. For example, one of our big recommendations for future classes was to have multiple mentors and experts like your team did, because of the success we saw in your team. So I just like the influence you guys had by setting the standard is very impressive.
Thank you. It's something I didn't notice, but that's really cool. Yes, so we've got 2 minutes left now. I wanted to thank everyone again for coming out. I think we're gonna wrap it up now. Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody. I very much so appreciate your willingness to come out. I do want to point out that all of the teams had to also create a pamphlet at the very beginning of it. And at that time when they did, this team mailed theirs to me, which was amazing. It's on fancy paper. And that's when I realized that they actually, and I put this in the chat earlier, they went out and found a Pantone color and then matched everything to it that early in all of their work. So now that I've said that, I'm going to stop the recording.